We continue with Daniel Lieberman's book Exercised to discuss the real benefits of exercise and the most effective exercise methods. If you're not an athlete, not overly concerned about aesthetics, and don't find joy in pushing your physical limits all day, then exercise for you serves one primary purpose: health. The human body, a product of millions of years of evolution, is fundamentally good. It holds no malice towards you. As long as you use it normally, your body remains normal and healthy. However, the advent of modern life since the agricultural era, particularly in the last few decades, has rendered this body abnormal. We now need to incorporate exercise into our lives to counteract this abnormality and normalize our bodies. Let's delve into 3 abnormal phenomena in modern life and how to address them, followed by an exercise philosophy based on the principle of anti-fragility and, finally, the most cost-effective exercise methods recognized by the scientific community. The first abnormal phenomenon is obesity. The fundamental reason for the prevalence of obesity is the ease of obtaining food. In an era where sugary and fatty foods are cheaper than those without these elements, the body faces a dilemma. In simple terms, the body is sensitive to temporary changes in weight but lacks the ability to regulate long-term weight changes. If you go a day or two without eating enough, the body adjusts by prompting you to eat more. However, the body doesn't consider the fact that you might be significantly overweight. The body only responds to immediate sensations. This makes weight loss through exercise and dieting challenging. Exercise might make you eat more. Therefore, traditional exercise methods might take several months or even a year to show significant results, but the benefit is that the body gradually adapts to a new energy balance, preventing rebound. Dieting is a faster method, but it increases cravings. Once you stop dieting, there's a high chance of rebound. Regardless, obesity is a significant issue, increasing the risk of various diseases. Importantly, obesity is more dangerous than physical inactivity. The impact of obesity on mortality is almost twice as much as the impact of physical inactivity. Lieberman says, if you had to choose between obese but physically healthy and thin but physically unfit, the overwhelming evidence suggests you should choose thin but physically unfit. The second abnormal phenomenon is prolonged sitting. In 2009, Americans spent 43% more time sitting daily than in 1965. Chinese people likely have similar trends. The body is not designed for prolonged sitting. Prolonged sitting exacerbates obesity because, when comfortably seated, muscles bear minimal pressure. Even standing increases energy consumption by 8% to 10%. In a sedentary state, the body accumulates fat and sugar in the blood, leading to chronic mild inflammation throughout the body. Moreover, prolonged sitting can cause muscle stiffness. The bad news is that exercise does not effectively counteract prolonged sitting. The good news is that it's easy to combat prolonged sitting. Simply stand up and move around periodically to counteract most adverse effects. You don't necessarily need a standing desk all day, as the energy consumption difference is not the main factor. Lieberman recommends active sitting. Avoid sitting for more than 30 minutes at a stretch and ideally stand up and move around every 12 minutes. If that's not possible, even fidgeting or making unconscious movements while sitting is better than remaining completely still. A crucial point is that the most harmful sitting occurs during leisure time at home. Like reclining on the sofa for extended periods while watching TV or using smartphones. The third abnormal phenomenon is premature aging. As discussed earlier, hunter-gatherers maintain robust health well into their 60s and 70s, but modern individuals often struggle before reaching 50. The primary reason is the proactive reduction of physical activity. Before the age of 70, the reduction in activity is not primarily due to aging but rather a result of decreased movement. This is a crucial piece of advice for middle-aged and elderly individuals. Aging is a natural and normal process, affecting everyone. Free radicals cause oxidation of cell molecules, damage to mitochondria, glycation reactions in body tissues, and the shortening of chromosome telomeres. all contributing to aging. However, it's important to note that many mechanisms causing aging are intervenable, reparable, and preventable. Regular exercise is the best method for repair and even reversal of aging. In an extreme experiment, healthy young individuals were bedridden for 3 weeks, showing markers resembling those of 40-year-olds. Subsequent 8 weeks of intense exercise not only reverted their bodies to their 20s, but also enhanced their condition. Contrary to common belief, aging diseases, like type 2 diabetes, are not caused by age per se but are results of the cumulative effects of obesity and inactivity with age. Getting old doesn't necessarily mean getting sick. Diseases become more likely when inactivity accumulates with age. Consider this chart. It illustrates the mortality rate changes over 20 years, between a group of regular runners and a group habitually sitting. The probability of various diseases is significantly lower for the former. Overall, the decreased mortality rate from regular running is equivalent to being 15 years younger over 2 decades. Whether your body remains healthy after the age of 80 depends largely on genetics, but before 80, exercise is the key. The good news is that exercise can be beneficial at any point in life. Understanding all this, you might be surprised to learn why exercise brings about physical repair. This is an anti-fragile mechanism, meaning subjecting the body to a certain degree of stress makes it stronger. The exact mechanisms behind this are not fully understood, hence it's called the costly repair hypothesis. Here's how it goes. The body naturally has self-repair mechanisms to counteract aging factors like oxidation and damage. However, repair requires a significant amount of energy, so it's not active all the time. The body's strategy is to prioritize functions like movement, energy storage, and reproduction over repair. When you engage in moderate to intense exercise, the body undergoes some damage. For example, increased oxygen consumption accelerates cell oxidation, muscles experience damage, and the body initiates an inflammatory response. In simple terms, after exercising, you temporarily age. However, this triggers your body's self-repair mechanisms. Repair starts immediately after exercise ends. Remarkably, this repair not only addresses the damage caused by the exercise, but also fixes previous damage. The repair includes replenishing energy reserves, reducing cortisol levels, producing antioxidants, eliminating waste cells, and more. Your body undergoes a small rejuvenation. This is the costly repair. This chart depicts the change in energy consumption before and after exercise. In the hours following exercise, your body's resting metabolic rate remains higher than usual. The extra energy consumption is utilized for repair. Furthermore, repair activities burn off some fat. Lieberman metaphorically describes this process as akin to accidentally making a mess in the kitchen, then thoroughly cleaning it, leaving the kitchen even cleaner than before. Isn't this fantastic? Unfortunately, the body only initiates this super repair process when you exercise. Activities like cold showers, prolonged fasting, cutting carbs, consuming spicy foods to stimulate the digestive system, or even medications don't have the same effect. Perhaps intermittent fasting might have some effect, but the most reliable method is exercise. This is the greatest benefit of exercise. Understanding these principles provides a foundation for how to approach exercise. Firstly, based on my interpretation of the book, walking is not considered exercise. Lieberman doesn't explicitly state it, but I understand that walking doesn't trigger the super repair process because it doesn't significantly increase oxygen consumption. Of course, walking is better than prolonged sitting, but it lacks the reversal effect. It's more of a form of rest. Lieberman provides various research evidence, reaching a consensus in the scientific community that, for health, you need 4 types of exercise. 1. Moderate-intensity aerobic exercise. Brisk walking, jogging, cycling. The standard is that your breathing quickens, you feel slightly breathless but can still talk, though singing becomes challenging. Your heart rate should reach 50% to 70% of the maximum heart rate. 2. Moderate to high-intensity aerobic exercise. Fast running, not sprinting. The standard is a heart rate of 70% to 85% of the maximum. You'll be out of breath, can only speak a few words, not complete sentences. 3. High-intensity interval training, short-distance sprinting. Heart rate exceeds 85% or 90% of the maximum. You'll run until you feel breathless. Each sprint lasts 10 to 60 seconds, followed by a rest. 4. Strength training, muscle stretching, etc. Aerobic exercise is the core of the workout, offering the most benefits. It promotes cardiovascular health, initiates body repair, gradually but firmly aids weight loss, and more. Strength training helps prevent muscle atrophy. Scientific recommendations suggest 150 minutes of moderate or moderate to high-intensity aerobic exercise per week, combined with 1 or 2 strength training sessions. If high-intensity aerobic exercise is feasible, the time can be halved. However, Lieberman advises prioritizing moderate aerobic exercise because it has more benefits than high-intensity interval training. The primary advantage of high-intensity exercise is time efficiency. For weight loss, it's best to increase moderate aerobic exercise to 300 minutes per week. In any case, this exercise plan is not overly challenging. If you exercise 5 days a week, you only need 30 minutes each day. We are only a small amount of exercise away from the normal bodies of hunter-gatherers. Many individuals who never exercise still lead healthy lives. For instance, Donald Trump never exercises and indulges in sodas and hamburgers. Perhaps he has good genes, or maybe he's secretly taking some medication. 50% of Americans never exercise, yet modern medical conditions help them live to 80, longer than many hunter-gatherers. However, armed with this knowledge, I believe you'll choose to exercise. Remember, the 3 worst things modern humans can do to their bodies are smoking, obesity, and physical inactivity. In my opinion, lifestyle habits are now one of the most critical indicators of life, as important as income and education. If you're ever in the realm of matchmaking, don't forget to consider the other person's lifestyle habits.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.